No, they're very welcome to a special edition of Treaty Talk. It would have been episode 206, but today it's all about the county finals, and we'll focus solely on the hurling county finals that take place this weekend. Obviously, the big showdown of the weekend will be Kilmallock versus Na Piarsaigh this Sunday, back at the 𝗧𝗹𝗸𝗁 grounds at 4:15. But we also have the Premier Intermediate Hurling Championship final between Monaleen and Bruff this Saturday in Kilmallock at 3. So stay tuned for both of those previews.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
A couple of folk before we start, Matt. We're obviously recording early on Wednesday morning. There's just Harty Cup game on Wednesday afternoon when we'd usually be recording, so this will be out. It won't be live. If anyone has any comments or anything they want to get, just get your comments in, and we'll see those next week. My voice as well, you can hear I'm a bit run down, so I apologise for that. But in the intro,
so I'll be doing all the talking, Jack, is it?
Yeah, standard enough. But I suppose. Said in the intro, Matt, back at the Gaelic grounds and long overdue, but it's going to be brilliant to actually walk back in there on Sunday afternoon. It's been a long time coming, but it's the home of Limerick J, and this is the showpiece event, so it's only right that we're back in the Gaelic grounds on Sunday.
Yeah, I suppose headquarters is a fit and proper place to hold what is the showcase hurling game of the year. But I think William O'Donoghue in the pre-final press evening, he made the point about how important it was to having the game in the Gaelic grounds. But he also said about the games that were out around the county and the intimacy and the atmosphere that they created. I think it's very, very important because in 2021 all games were exclusively in the Gaelic grounds, and I think that you need to spread it around the county in the interest of promoting the game, and we have seen at the county grounds in places like Kilmallock, Doon, and these places, we've seen fantastic crowds turning out, Jack. So, yeah. It's bringing the hurling back to the people, back to its space. Yeah, and but come county final day, I suppose it's only fit and proper that it should be staged at headquarters.
Yeah, it's exciting to get back there, right? And you'll be hoping for a big crowd. I know the game is on TG Car, but I'm sure there's a lot of people that have been looking forward to getting back to HQ. I suppose the matchup we have is Kilmallock and Na Piarsaigh. Before we get into the nitty gritty, I think it's one that you called way back in June when we did our preview. I think you had mentioned that you'd fancy Na Piarsaigh to go all the way, but in the final. Not that there's no real surprises, but at the start of the year you would have picked out these two, and they've lived up to the expectations.
They're two very, very, very good sides now. Doon came very close to upsetting that prediction, but it was on an appalling day. But of course, it was appalling for both sides. I felt right from the outset that if they avoided each other when it came to the knockout phase of the competition, that they were the most likely finalists, and that's how it has transpired. And if you look at their record, if you look at Na Piarsaig's record in getting to the final, I saw them in two games in the league, and particularly in the league final, they really, really impressed me because the way that they blew a dare out of it in the league final. And when I was reflecting on it afterwards, I reckon that there was probably 6, 7 at the most of what would be the Na Piarsaigh Championship team, because all the Limerick players were immersed with Limerick at that particular time. I think it was back around April or May, and I felt that that, and I saw something about him that I thought that they seem to be single-minded this year, and of course they just had one goal in mind. And in the group stages, they were hugely impressive, of course, with 4 straight wins, and then they went into the final day having already nailed the semi-final spot, and they were held on that day by a hand. Now, what was a significant game inside that was round 2, when Na Piarsaigh met Kilmallock over in Doon, and it was kind of a foretaste of what we expect on Sunday. Now, it was a cracking game. Now, I'm not so sure how much bearing it will have on what will transpire in the Gaelic grounds on Sunday, but our prediction that these were the 2 likely finalists, it was confirmed to me that evening. Now, I was quite satisfied leaving Doon that evening, that despite the quality of the game that they served up, and there was only a point in it at the end, that neither side left everything there. That there was something left in both tanks. And the question will be, when they square up on Sunday, given what has happened in between and all that, how much was left in both tanks, and that would be crucial.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating game, because even though Kilmallock were county champions coming into the year, Na Piarsaigh were favoured throughout, and their odds have really shortened 4-9 to 2-1. But from a Kilmallock standpoint, they're going into the game as defending champions, and that brings a lot of weight with it. That they got the job done most recently. Now, I know Na Piarsaigh won 6 titles in just over a decade, but Kilmallock are the champions at the end of the day, into the final.
They are the champions, and all conventional wisdom last year in the lead up to the final was suggesting that it was almost Patrick's will to lose, but obviously Kilmallock didn't read into that script or buy into that narrative. I actually think, Jack, that Kilmallock are, they're something of a better side than they were last year. I think their side has been strengthened, and their squad has been strengthened. The arrival on the scene of Shane O'Brien has added greatly to Kilmallock's firepower, because, like, we have seen we've seen during the championship this year the seamless transition he has made from minor and underage and colleges hurling into senior championship hurling, and I think he gives an added dimension to Kilmallock, as does Conor Handley-Clark. Now, I know Conor Handley-Clark played a bit parts last year, mainly late cameo appearances, but he's more centre stage this year, although there may be a possibility that he may not start. He has been used to great effect during the campaign as an impact sub, and he has great free-taking capabilities as well. So I think if you look at those two, now on the downside for Kilmallock, the loss of Kieran O'Connor was huge. And Liam English, they lost 2 defenders, but Kieran O'Connor had evolved into being a very, very good centre-half back last year. And it left a very big void for Kilmallock to fill this year. And they have tried a couple of combinations, and they have settled, I think, at last, for the tried and trusted Gavin O'Mahony, who never lets the side down, and who has so much experience of appearing in county finals, appearing in big games with Limerick, and he had been up at full forward, and a very, very good fallback situation to have a player of the caliber of Gavin O'Mahony to step in with the wealth of experience that he has. And also on the plus side was, of course, the return of Paddy O'Loughlin. Like here you have an All-Ireland winner coming back into your squad, a recent All-Ireland winner as recent as 2020, coming back into your squad. So I think if you take the pros and the cons, the pluses and the minuses, I think that Kilmallock have a stronger squad this year.
Yeah, and they seem to be playing a better brand of hurling. I think that it just comes from confidence from winning the title last year, because to be fair, they kind of came from nowhere last year, so Liberty's pushed them all the way. And Ballybrown could have very easily knocked them out in the group stages, but I think they're playing with a renewed vigor and confidence, and a couple of lads were called into the inter-county setup, and that's boosted them as well. They have some real firepower up there, Matt. And if you were, on a Piarsaigh defence, or I suppose manager, like, who would you be, I suppose, detailing on Shane O'Brien, because he caused a lot of trouble in the group stage game. And then obviously you've the likes of Micheál Houlihan, Graham Mulcahy, and Oisin O'Reilly that need minding as well. You have to get your matchups right here.
Absolutely, and you have to get. You also have to take into account that I think Phelim O'Reilly, Oisin's brother, is in the form of his life at the moment. Oh, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. He's playing fantastic hurling. So I quite honestly I don't know who they will delegate to shadow or police Shane O'Brien. I'm just wondering, will they be tempted maybe to play Jerome Boylan if fully fit, and that he may be delegated to take him on. But it's very, very much up in the air. But a general point, Jack, and I was reflecting on it during the week and have reflected considerably on it. Like it will be decided, and this might be a small bit cliched, but it will be decided, Jack, by which defence stands up the best to the firepower of the opposition. Because you would have to say that the strong areas of both sides are the attack. Like you have Kilmallock attack, which you've just named there, and you have another guy like that who may not be starting, will probably be on the bench for Kilmallock, but is a very, very useful substitute to have, and absolutely revels in the Gaelic grounds, as we've seen. Was it 8 points from playing a county under 21 final? I'm talking about David Wolfe.
Yeah.
So it will depend on how the respective defences will match up to the firepower, because like Kilmallock have firepower, we're talking the Piarsaigh firepower, like you talk of Kevin Downs, Conor Boylan, Dahi Dempsey, William Henn, quite a formidable player, Adrian Breen, and that's not mentioning Peter the Great, even, Peter Casey. Like, so look, it's fascinating. It's a stellar cast on Sunday, and it's absolutely mouth-watering, and it's one of those games that you just can't wait until Johnny Murphy throws in the ball at 4:15.
Yeah, there's riches among both sides there, and we will do a combined 15 in not too long a future on this podcast. But before we get to that, I suppose you're talking about firepower there either side, but in midfield, I think there's a huge battle there between Robbie Hanley and William O'Donoghue, and in many ways, William O'Donoghue is just Robbie Hanley further down the track, like a real abrasive kind of midfielder, always in the thick of the action. Probably doesn't get in the score sheet as much as, modern midfielders, but, their contribution is probably far more telling over the course of the game. I mean, William O'Donoghue, it's like men against boys sometimes, and Robbie Hanley has shown glimpses of that, namely the 21s final in 2017 against Kilkenny, but there's a real emphasis, I suppose, on Robbie. Now, it could be someone else, but just to try and curb William O'Donoghue, because even with that firepower, it all kind of seems to stem from Will, in my opinion, for Na Piarsaigh. I
agree with you. Absolutely powerful player, of course. all it is that he's bringing the type of form and the type of performances that he puts on the green jersey. He's just bringing it to club level, and of course, he's a huge figure and a huge cog. Plus, an inspirational captain of the side as well. And but it's going to be a huge battle there because I think a couple of things that probably swayed that helped Kilmallock steal a match on everybody last year when they were not fancied and win the county championship was that I thought in general last year throughout the campaign that Robbie Handley had a massive campaign for Kilmallock. Really came into his own, and of course the placing of Aaron Costello from cornerback to midfield, it brought huge energy to that area of the field for Kilmallock. And you could see in last year's county final, if we reflect back on it, the amount of energy and effort and intensity that the two, Robbie Handley and Aaron Costello, brought to the final. Like it knocked like a keen lynch and those out of their stride. And it was part of the platform for that Kilmallock victory. And Fintan O'Connor will be looking for something similar. But, coming up against Willem O'Donoghue, it's a totally different kettle of fish. An absolutely fantastic player. A powerhouse, of course. Physically a powerhouse. So that's going to be a very, very interesting battle. And, of course, a lot will depend as well, Jack, on how much midfield play there will be, because I think Kilmallock will probably want to bypass Willem O'Donoghue at all costs at all times. But what battle there will be in the battleground of midfield, it'll be very, very, very interesting. Now, Keith Dempsey is possibly a good young hurler, is possibly going to be maybe Will's partner. Thomas Grimes has been a big loss to Na Piarsaigh. There's no doubt about that. And look, you can go to all the areas of the field, and you can only surmise or guess what likely matchups there will be. But whatever there will be, it's going to be and matchups that are not working, they will be changed very, very quickly because it will be that type of game. There won't be much time for resting on anything on Sunday.
No, and you might have answered my question there just at the outset there. But can you see any changes in the teams from the semi-finals? And I suppose for Kilmallock's sake, they have huge versatility that, for example, Oisin O'Reilly can play in any of those 6 forward positions. Gavin O'Mahony, he was full forward last year. He's centre back now. Aaron Costello can kind of play from 2 to 9. That they do have huge adaptability. Can you see that being used by Fintan O'Connor on Sunday?
Yeah, well, you see that there's a question then, like who does he opt for, Paddy O'Brien or Kevin O'Donnell? Like, these are two players now that, in my view, would be nailed on starters in any team. Kevin O'Donnell has been reduced in a couple of games to playing big parts, and anytime he has come on, we have seen how good a hurler he is, and what he brings to the team. I think both sides will be looking for the stability that brought him to the final. I think if you're asking the respective teams what changes I would expect from the semi-final to the final, Jack, I would answer it with a one-word minimum.
Yeah, I suppose you have to back the players that got you there in the start. But talking of the players, we just said we'd try and throw together a starting 15 from the two teams, and it's very difficult. You're going to be leaving out and either all-stars or future all-stars, whatever way you put it. But we'll run through them, Matt, and I'll ask you for your goalie first. And we'll do the defence as a full midfield. But in goals, I don't think there's going to be any major surprise.
Barry Hennessy would be the goalkeeper, I would imagine. You know,
Yeah.
4 times All-Ireland winner as substitute goalkeeper, and, you know, 4 times county senior hurling medalist. Barry's done it all, and, you know, despite it all and his longevity of how long he's been playing, he hasn't lost one bit of appetite for it, which is phenomenal and says so much for Barry. You know, it could have to be Barry, in my opinion.
Yeah, obviously it'd be Evan Condon's first final in goals for Na Piarsaigh. Kieran Kennedy has held down, or Pádraig Kennedy has held down that role for well over a decade. Evan has proven well worth his place, but as you said, Barry is a 4-time county winner and also a 4-time All-Ireland winner, so no surprises there. Your full-back line, and this is where it starts to get very tricky, but your 3 in the full-back line.
My 3 in the full-back line, and I reflected long and hard on this one. I would be going for Jerome Boylan, Mike Casey, and Aaron Costello.
So you've moved Aaron Costello into home at cornerback.
Yeah.
I have a different there now, because I just put Aaron out in the wing because he played there in the semi-final. But obviously Casey, I think, needs no explanation. Jerome Boylan has obviously played much championship as well, and obviously Aaron Costello has done. I have Dan Joy in at the other cornerback slot, but again, you're losing out on players. Of Emmett McAvoy has been brilliant this year for Na Piarsaigh, in fairness to him. Obviously, the O'Loughlin's are stalwarts for Kilmallock, but it just goes to show the standard of player that's at the disposal there. Which was the hardest player to leave out, I suppose, for you.
Jack, you could pick 2 mixed teams between them, and you come up with 2 cracking teams.
Yeah. The standard. I just wrote out the 15 and then trying to mark them off. Like, there was only 4 or 5 that you were like, they have to be on this team in a certain position. I think Mike Casey is one of those, in fairness to him, but you know, he'll have his hands full this weekend. I suppose moving into your half-back line.
Oh, I really agonized on this one, and the only one that I could really settle on without an awful lot of thought was that Paddy O'Loughlin at left half-back.
Yeah, number 7. He's down here
Centre
on my sheet too.
half-back. Sorry?
I have Paddy in. He was one of the first ones in the fence, to be fair.
Yeah. Sorry. Then at centre half-back, I just couldn't make up my mind, because the choices between Gavin O'Mahony and Ronan Lynch. And Ronan Lynch, I suppose, has been consistent there. I actually sat on the fence on this one, because I put Gavin at right half-back and I put Ronan Lynch at centre-back.
Okay. So, yeah. And look, to be fair, Gavin O'Mahony has played every position.
I couldn't countenance a combined team that Gavin O'Mahony wouldn't be in, because he has brought so much, he brings so much. You know, it was unimaginable to me. So I think I came up with an honourable compromise in my own mind, anyway. Jack, you would probably think, what's your half-back line?
Yeah, well, obviously I have Paddy at 7. I've Ronan in the centre, as you said, longevity there. You know, he won All-Ireland in 16 centre back, and you know, he's never really been budged. And the quality players, the likes of Carl King and Alan Dempsey and Will Donoghue, even played 6 as well for a while, that he's held them off. And I have Aaron Costello out in the wing, because I had Dan Joy in the corner. So Gavin O'Mahony didn't make it in my team, but you know, if it was the best Kilmallock Na Piarsaigh team of all time, he'd be one of the first names on the team sheet, you know. And this isn't to say he won't be man of the match or anything. Again, we're only doing this for the fun of it. I think people enjoy hearing these things. But as you said, if you got 10 people to pick 10 different teams, there'd be so many, you know, differences in opinions. And that's what I went for: Aaron Costello, Ronan Lynch, and Paddy O'Loughlin. But I mean, a half-back of Mike Foley, Gavin O'Mahony, and
Paddy O'Brien, Kevin O'Donnell,
yeah,
you know.
Carl King, you know, could be as equally dominant.
Carl King, an All-Ireland winning captain, you know, never left Na Piarsaigh down.
Yeah, you know, they have a few as well from an intermediate team, the likes of James O'Brien, David Breen, and Alan Dempsey. That a lot of teams in senior would bite your hand off from, but that's the strength that we're dealing with here. And so many All-Ireland winners. When you're looking through this team, in fairness, just probably from the first 7, there's probably 5. And if you bring in underage, then they've all won them on my sheet anyway. So very hard to cut. Midfield then probably a bit more straightforward.
Yeah, I thought midfield was let's say, I felt I had to give the least amount of thought to it, in that that William O'Donoghue and Robbie Handy would be the standout performers.
Yeah, I don't like Keith Dempsey is a fine hurler in his own right, and obviously then it could be Kevin O'Donnell or Paddy O'Brien, or even Oisin O'Reilly played there at the start of the year. But I think when you're coming in, they've probably lorded the midfield area the last few years themselves, and Keane Lynch then from Parswell and Darragh Donovan from Doon. They have been the dominant midfielders, and we spoke in detail about that little match up there. So we won't dwell on it too much. And then into the forwards, Matt. These
do we have to pick the forward? Jack, what's your half forward line?
Yeah, just before I rang you on Monday night, you kind of let out a sigh because you knew you'd have to leave out someone. And I was really thinking about moving Will back to centre back, where he played there a few years ago, to try and fit in all these players. But you're going to have to leave players out. But my half line, Oisin O'Reilly at 10, Peter Casey at 11, and Daithí Dempsey at 12 was what I settled for. Oisin O'Reilly, I think, has been the most improved player in Limerick over the last 12 months. Was the best player in the championship last year. Hasn't really relented. Just so dominant when he gets the ball. And I suppose against Doon, conditions really didn't go his way. But like, if there's a dry pitch on Sunday, like he was unreal in the Gaelic rounds last year, the semi and final. Peter Casey at 11, I think, is a brilliant mix of he'll take his own score when it's on, but he likes to get players into the game. He's an all-star. Like, there's no disputing Peter Casey. And 12, Daithí Dempsey has been, I think, the Limerick for the last 7 or 8 years. Always gets a goal. So influential around the middle third. Never worked out for him at the county level, I think it's fair to say. But for Na Piarsaigh, I don't think there's been anyone better than in the county as a whole. So O'Reilly, Casey, and Dempsey, I think, would take on any county halfback, not to mind the club one. Had you any differences?
I had O'Reilly and I had Dempsey. Obviously for the reasons that you said, like I rate Oisin extremely highly. Absolutely fantastic player, and the same for David Dempsey. Daithí Dempsey is just simply incredible in my view, and what a champion, what a servant in the Piarsaigh, Daithí Dempsey. Year in, year out, game in, game out, never comes below a certain level. I had opted for Conor Boylan at centre half forward.
Okay, that's. I'd imagine you're going to have Casey in team somewhere, but you will explain that to us.
I will explain, of course, and it's no secret Peter Casey will be in it, and don't worry, he'll be in it. But really, I rate Conor Boylan, and obviously, we've seen Jack, the contribution that Conor Boylan has made to his county, and makes a huge contribution, in my view, to Na Piarsaigh. He's a vital cog in that Na Piarsaigh team, and like he was one of the first names when I came to naming the forwards that went into it. He went in shoulder to shoulder with Peter Casey on it, because how important he's hugely important.
Yeah, Conor Boylan is a class player, and to be honest with you, I have 4 players written in at number 13. That's 13 alone, because I just thought it was so difficult to narrow him down. But you obviously have Peter Casey in the full forward line, yes?
Peter Casey at 15.
At 15. Well, for me,
my full forward line, after a lot of agonising, and this is no disrespect to Micheál Houlihan, I went for Graham Mulcahy, Shane O'Brien. Shane O'Brien moving him to full forward because of his adaptability. We've seen it with 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗶, we've seen it with Kilmallock, the way he can move around, and of course Peter the Great, Peter Casey.
Yeah, I mean, there's no disputing on that.
You know, you could make compelling cases. You could make compelling cases for Micheál Houlihan. You could make compelling cases for Kevin Downs. You could make compelling cases for Adrian Breen.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, as I said, I have 4 down here. I'm gonna have to just pick as you go. And I suppose I went for favorite players to watch, and 15 for me is Shane O'Brien, because I know he's only 18 and might put a lot of pressure on him, but I just think he's such a brilliant player to watch. No fear. Even the size of him, he's ready to play senior hurling. He's shown that. I'd imagine maybe with Limerick next year, he'll do his service, and he probably won't play very much next year, but he'll be still with the 20s. At full forward, I went for Adrian Breen. Just when it comes to club play, he's got 223 in 6 games from plays, well over 4 points a game, which is really incredible stuff for a full forward. And then I have 4 All-Ireland winners that go into that last spot: Micheál Houlihan, Graham Mulcahy, Conor Boylan, and Kevin Downs. I'll probably go with Graham Mulcahy. Just longevity, started that Ireland final not too long ago. Has been a real linchpin for Kilmallock, scored 7 points in the final last year. But, Micheál Houlihan has all year barring that injury, so I think I get an out there with him that he was injured. So that's why he isn't in. Conor Boylan, I don't know.
I want to make one point about Graham Mulcahy. They tend to benchmark his performance based on scoring, but the contribution that Graham Mulcahy makes to Limerick is simply phenomenal. The work rate that he brings, he's a full backline's nightmare. He's a full backline's pure nuisance. Now he takes on a sort of a different role with Kilmallock. He's to the forefront and moves the centre forward. If things aren't going well in a particular place, send for Graham to rectify it, But this narrative that's going around about him not scoring and all that sort of thing, that to me is the height of nonsense. Graham Mulcahy made a phenomenal contribution to Limerick in 2022.
I did, of course, start an Ireland final, won it. That's 4 All-Irelands for him. But to be fair, man, if we pick this team on Monday afternoon, you probably have Micheál Houlihan, I'd have Conor Boylan and Kevin Downs. It's just what we feel right now at this moment before the final. But I'd happily have any of those lads starting. I'd written down players that were lucky to miss out, like Conor Handley-Clark is such an enjoyable hurler to watch as well. Wrist work, I don't know, is there anyone that rivals him in Limerick, to be fair? Kevin O'Mahony missed out on my team, Emmett McAvoy, Kevin Downs, there's a couple for you that missed out as well. It's all for a bit of fun, but it just goes to
Philip O'Loughlin. Yeah, Philip O'Loughlin, has played senior with Limerick, and we saw him last year as a fantastic wing back last year when he captained the side, and it's testimony to his versatility. The way he has dovetailed back into the full back line again beside his brother Mark. I'll tell you, Jack, you could make cases for maybe 17 or 18 on both sides. That is the type of talent, and that's the type of quality that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's unreal in fairness, and just 2 brilliant sides, and it makes for a brilliant game. And I suppose it was probably an 8-7 split there for both of us on the starting 15s. But I know we'll have predictions at the end most weeks, and we won't just get predictions, but I will get it before we go into Premier League. But where do you see the winning and losing of this game on Sunday?
As I told you from the outset, I see the winning and the losing as how the respective defences deal with the opposing forwards. And that is going to be crucial, absolutely crucial, in my opinion. Yeah. And now, it might be an obvious answer, but you're talking, and follow on from the debate that we had there in picking 6 forwards. It gives you an idea of the firepower that both sides have up front, and it's the defence that will be best organised, that will be tightest, that will give the least amount away. That will decide it. Normally, forwards and scoring prowess, defines and wins or loses games. But I think on this occasion it will be who will defend the best against what are stellar attacks, no matter what formation either side come up with. There's, look at the Na Piarsaigh side. There are threats everywhere. We didn't mention William Hen at all. And there is a player, and on the Kilmallock side, it's something similar, like that. We picked a team, and Micheál Houlihan failed to get into it, but Micheál Houlihan at his best, and I suppose our thinking was conditioned by his performances this year, which have been totally blighted by injury, unfortunately. Had Micheál Houlihan played, had he had the same amount of game time as he had last year, and had the same involvement with Kilmallock during the campaign, we might have had different forward lines.
Oh, 100%. And again, that team could change in an hour's time. I could ring you and say I want, Conor Boylan in and Kevin Downs in, and it'll all depend on the day. But if you were to predict,
I'll tell you get lost, Jack, because we have the job done.
Yeah, I know it was hard enough to do it once, but we'll go into our prediction, Matt. And this Sunday game on at 4:15. Who do you see lifting the Daily Cup at the end of the day?
Oh, sure, look, flip a coin. You can flip a coin on this one. I'm going for Kilmallock by a point.
Kilmallock by a point.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, like 2017, they kind of were pretty much blown out of the water. They do look a far better team this time around, to be fair to Kilmallock.
Absolutely. No, I fancied Na Piarsaigh from the start, but that was before the ball was poked. But what I've seen, and for the reason that I think that Kilmallock are a better side, but a better side than last year. I'm just going for them to share it marginally by a point. I think the experience of last year will stand them in very, very good stead, Jack.
Yeah, I think we'll go to extra time. I don't see anything to separate the teams in normal time.
Jack.
No, I think it's. I'll just check here. Finish on the day was the note that we got during the week. So I don't think there's a replay. But if it does go to extra time, I think we'll have lights in the Gaelic grounds. It'll be a lot more dramatic. I just can't see anything to separate the sides in normal time. And if I was to go in extra time, I would just go with Na Piarsaigh. And the simple reason is that they haven't gone more than 2 years without a title since 2011. Every second year they're there as winners, but very, very difficult. And the closer it's getting, the more I'm siding with Kilmallock. I thought after the semi-finals, it was Na Piarsaigh were maybe 2 or 3 points ahead, but
you see, Jack,
4 to 9.
Another factor that's playing into all this, Jack, is you have two teams in Sunday's final that know how to win finals. They've won 10 of the last 12 between them. It'll give you a sense of the level of dominance that they have enjoyed in the competition. So look, we'll wait until about
on the point of 10 out of the last 12. A lot of the same faces, have been thereabouts for both teams. Obviously, Barry Hennessy, the Loughlin's, Mulcahy, have been there right from the start, 2010. Probably a few more, Gavin O'Brien,
Kevin O'Donnell, Gavin O'Mahony, they've all been there for through all that. And if you go to the Na Piarsaigh side, you have something similar. But there might be slightly a bit more change. Like Kevin Downs has been there through it all. Adrian Breen has been there through it all. You know, and
Kevin Downs was there in 2009, you know, for their first ever final, which I think is an incredible achievement. That he'll be, I think, it is 9th or maybe 10th county final.
And it's a reinvented Kevin Downs that we have this year, because he's an absolutely fantastic bowler.
Yeah, and as well, if it wasn't for horrible injuries, Shane Dowling will be talking out in the light blue for Na Piarsaigh on Sunday. So I suppose fair thought for Shane that, you know, injuries have blinded, but he's resurrected his career at intermediate. They have a final next well, but this was the prediction segment, and, you know, 1 point either way for us. You know, we're looking forward to a really good game, Matt. I'll give you the final word on Sunday, but it just promises to be a cracker.
It does, absolutely, and it's one of those games that we can wait for.
Oh yeah, definitely can't wait. And may the best team win on the day, you know, because we can't really call it, to be fair, who's going to win it. So let the best team win. Obviously, 24 hours earlier, just over 24 hours earlier, we'll have the Premier Intermediate hurling final between Bruff and Monaleen. And to be fair, the Premier Intermediate final, you know, has been the best competition in Limerick, bar none, since its inception in 2014. And I don't know it's the first time, but we'll have 2 previous winners playing each other. I don't think that's happened before, obviously. Bruff in 14 and Monaleen in 2016. But we talk about, 16. You know, Na Piarsaigh, Kilmallock. Yeah, Kilmallock and Na Piarsaigh having very similar teams. Very new-looking teams for both of those sides. There won't be a huge amount of experience from those finals for either side, that they are relatively new-look.
They are relatively new look, and I was reflecting on it, obviously during the week, and having attended the under-19 Premier under-19 hurling final between the same 2 clubs. I just went through the program and found that there's as many as 6 or 7 of on each side who were playing under-19 that night, who are now in their respective adult squads, and a number of them actually have made the transition onto the team. Like, you know, you have the like of 𝗧𝗿𝗄𝗏 and Ronan Lyons on the Monaleen team, Ben Hayes there or thereabouts, and Bruff, you Patrick Finn, you've Dara Butler, Dara O'Brien, these people making the breakthrough, and Josh Keating, and you know, that in some ways, Jack, goes to explaining why there is such a turnover from when they were last champions. But of course, both sides as well, Jack, have had experience at senior level. Now, Bruff's sojourn at senior level was shorter than Monaleen, in that they survived for 3 years at senior level, whilst Monaleen survived for 5. But there will be residual experience there from those senior days. There will be a number of players on both sides who have been around the block. Well, of course, Monaleen are only down since last year. So they will have considered a number of players who will have played at senior level. But spare a thought for Paul Brown, you know. Paul Brown played, I think, in the 2007 intermediate hurling final. So, like, Paul has given absolutely fantastic service to Bruff, and you know, Paul is as good as ever, and will be a key player on Sunday. So, yes, you know, the changeover, and your original point, Jack, is brought about by both clubs who work very, very hard at underage and are beginning to reap dividends of it. They served up a classic in the under-19 final, and I think it's only fitting that a number of those players will get their chance to showcase at higher level on Saturday.
Yeah, and you talk about that cracker at 18. Obviously, in the group stages, it was 2-17 to 24. There was just a point between them as well, you know, and From Monaleen, they won on the day, but we've spoken about how hard it is to beat a team twice in the one season, and they obviously did it with Effin in the semi-final. But you know, the game was far closer to the semi than the group stages, and if Bruff do the same, they'll win. You know, there's probably a bit more pressure on Monaleen, as well as the fact that they came down from senior as well, that the pressure is probably more towards them.
It is, I'd say, and I saw the semi-final and between Effin and Monaleen, and Jack, I made the point, I think, as recently as last week or the week before, that you had a confluence of events in the final group game where you had Monaleen at their very best, and you had a no-show from Effin on the day, and that gave a distorted result, because I think the semi-final is far more reflective of where Monaleen and Effin are at. Like, in fairness, in the semi-final, and from a Monaleen point of view, Jack, it was a very, very good semi-final to win, because they got what any team in preparing for a final would want, and they got a severe test. Had they repeated the performance of 8 days earlier and ran away with it, it would be of little use to them going into the final. But they got a real test, and it was only really Effin were within a score as the clock ticked up to the hour. But Monaleen scored 5 points in 4 minutes, literally, to put it out of their reach. But it was a good semi-final to win, but so too was Bruff's semi-final, because they had to go to extra time. And they really had to extricate themselves from a very difficult situation towards the end of normal time, and they did it. So that's exactly very, very good preparatory work for the final. It sets it all up very, very, very nicely for what should be a cracking final on Saturday But it's actually Bruff's third appearance in the final, Jack.
Yeah.
Bruff have a very, very good record in this competition. They won it in 2014. They were back in the competition in 2018 after being relegated at the end of 2017. They got to the final when they were beaten by 𝗧𝗹𝗸𝗁. And in 2019 and 2020, they reached the semi-finals. Now, last year they didn't make the cut in the truncated competition, but they've regrouped, they've rebuilt, and they're back ready to go again.
Yeah, I suppose for Bruff, we talk about the influx of players to come through, a semi-final with extra time would be usual for younger players. And obviously you mentioned Effin were a difficult task for Monaleen, but probably again leaning towards Bruff in that regard, that their semi was tougher and they'd be given 2 weeks to recover. There'd be no worries about that, but it would have brought him on a lot. And in 18, Bruff are very similar to that 𝗧𝗹𝗁 team from 18, the team that beat Bruff, that a lot of young players coming through, won a minor title and are building. But again, you can't account for Monaleen's experience at senior level. A lot of big players have played there. They obviously have Andrew Latouche back now, but outside of that, like Larkin Lyon, the centre back, is an All-Ireland winner. So is Andrew. You have the likes of Ed Doyle. Donegal Dawley was starting for last year, in corner forward, that they're a dangerous outfit. I'll put it to you, Matt, and you can explain it in as long or short you want. Who will win on Saturday, and who will get to the coveted senior ranks in Limerick hurling?
Yeah, well, you mentioned about Monaleen and their experience, and you're quite correct in that, and that they have a number of players. Like, you start with Jamie Power in goal, like that Larkin Lyons has considerable experience. But who's who to me is having a fantastic year, and is one to watch in Sunday's final or Saturday's final, I beg your pardon, would be Ed Doyle, and he's having a very, very good year. Marco Dwyer is a serious forward, and Donegal Dawley, of course, played in the All-Ireland final with Limerick at under 20 level, and then your players like Simon Griffin, Dara Golden, O'Mahony, who've been around a bit and who have been experienced. And I mentioned Joseph Fitzgerald. They have a very exciting midfield partnership with Joseph Fitzgerald and a guy called Lachlan McHale. Two very, very, very good hurlers. And of course, we mentioned already Larkin Lyons, but his brother Ronan, of course, is a former 2 times Munster minor medal winner with Limerick, and again an exceptionally player. To return to the nub of your question, I'm going for Bruff to win it narrowly, Jack. And it's sort of picking up on a small bit on what you said earlier, when it's very, very hard to beat a team a second time. And if not that particular game will have much bearing on what will happen on Saturday, but I think the presence and the influence of the like of Sean Finn and Paul Brown will tilt it in Bruff's favour. These guys know how to win big games. You know,
Really.
they are conditioning my thinking and directing me towards nominating Bruff as the likely winners.
Yeah, another one that's really hard to call. Like Sean Finn, it's very hard to count for a 4-time All-Star and 4-time All-Ireland winner in a game like this. He could have so much bearing on the game, and if Monaleen have a danger man, whether it be the likes of 𝗧𝗿𝗲𝗁 or Ronald Lyons or Danica Dowling or Mark O'Dwyer or whoever, that he could shut them down. You know, he's done it with the best players in Ireland, so he would condition your thinking. Again, I'd side with a draw, but it's finishing the day. I'm 90% sure again, and I'll go with Bruff
That's
as well.
Jack, that's a very big ditch or fence you're sitting on today. It must be a very comfortable fence because you're prepared to sit in it all day.
Well, I did give a prediction for the senior, and I will with the Premier. I think Bruff will win by 2 points. Now, again, if you ask me this at 2:30 on Saturday before the game throws in, I'd probably side with Monaleen. You know, they're really hard to call, man. You know, and that's what we want.
It's one of those games. If you ask me again before the end of the program, I might even say Monaleen. You know, it's that tight, and you know.
And
so,
you know, in the grand scheme of things, you know, it shows why Limerick are the best team in the country, because even at club level, there's no easy game for anybody. Everyone is put to the pin in their collar. You know, like, and you'd imagine a lot of counties, if you had a 4-time All-Star, that they'd, you know, carry their team to any championship, but you know that's not the case here. That Monaleen are real contenders, and they have a load of stars in their own right, and they're gone for the football as well. You know that they were doing it till last weekend. It'll be the last game of the season for whoever comes through, or for whoever loses. You know, the winner will have Munster as well. I'm sure both teams will be really excited because Monaleen, I think they were beaten by Kilmallock, I think, in 16, a game that they probably thought they should have won. So I'd say there's unfinished business there. And for Bruff,
Bruff reached the Munster final in 2014 and appeared to have the job done when they were playing against the Breeze in the first half against Cappoquin, but failed to get the job done. Failed to get it done. Yeah. I think they were only trailing by something like 3 or 4 points at half time. They held Cappoquin scoreless, as far as I remember, the second half, but couldn't bridge the gap.
Yeah, so
Sean Finn on the day was playing corner forward.
Yeah, I think he scored, was it 1-3 in the county final that year? So, I mean, he can do it all. But yeah, look, a fascinating game on Saturday, and I even know it's for the perfect curtain raiser for the senior final the following day. Bruff Monaleen 3 o'clock on Saturday, Na Piarsaigh and Kilmallock at 4:15 on Sunday. 2 mouth-watering games, 2 really exciting games. We give them their dues there because that's what they deserve, is a lengthy preview. But for now, we'll leave you with that. There'll be a second podcast this week. This will go live on Wednesday, but there'll be a second podcast this week to go over the football finals, and we'll have the All-Stars. So there'll be more hurling in the other podcast. But A huge thank you again, Matt. Any last words before we head into county final weekend?
Really looking forward to the weekend. It's the weekends that we live for.
Exactly. A huge thank you to you, and a thank you to everyone listening. Make sure if you get your comments in, we'll go back and look at them and we can discuss them later on, maybe next week's podcast. So again, thank you, Matt, and we'll talk soon.
The impression again we get out with what you put into it's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as 𝗧𝗿𝗍𝗸 sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. 𝗧𝗹𝗸 to do that to 𝗧𝗹𝗸. He deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the packed it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes 𝗧𝗹𝗸. Kerry leading the charge of the Light Brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for any